I'm getting a lot of reports from women in this community that they are not being respected by law enforcement people. Now, we know that the criminal justice systems leave something to be desired. We know that historically, a woman could report domestic violence. She could report to a male police officer that her husband had beat her up. And we know that some of those officers, not all of the officers now, because the majority of the officers are going to do what they're supposed to do. But we know that some of those male officers would never render justice to a woman who complained of being beaten by her husband or boyfriend. When you recruit a police officer, you get nothing but a person. He or she is extracted from the community and environment in which they live. And if they are recruited into a poorly supervised, poorly recruited, poorly paid, poorly disciplined department, well then whatever you drag out of the community is what you're going to have. Whatever you drag out of the community is what you're going to have. And let me tell you the only way that you can have good police officers. And then even with this method, you're going to have some failing training. All right? When you take this person out of the community, they bring with them all of the baggage from their community. If they were girlfriend abusers, if they were wife abusers, if they were child molesters, if they were gang members, if they were drunks, if they were addicts, when you recruit that person into your department, that's exactly what you get. This person with all of these characteristics and problems. Now, when you get a police officer and put him on duty and have him swear to uphold the law and to support the Constitution and to protect citizens, and then when you put a badge on that person and you put a gun then on that person and you invest them, and this is the citizen's investment now, it's not really the police chief. But when the citizens invest that person with the authority to dip into their business, to interfere with their travel and movement in order to investigate and maintain safety and security in the community, that's exactly what the Constitution requires of that person. That's what the community expects and deserves from that person. And that's what the chief of police of any police department anywhere ought to expect and demand from that police officer, with all of that invested authority, with all of that power, with all of that freedom and flexibility, and all of those weapons. The officer, him or herself, ought to be a notch above the norm. First of all, you got to put out the beck and call. And I would be willing to say that the good police department, if they have 25 applicants, only about 3, 4, 5 of those people are going to make it onto the police department. The rest of them are going to go by the wayside. And you got a lot of areas to determine whether a person is capable and qualified of being a police officer. You have the application, written tests in most situations. You have oral interviews in most situations. You have police commission boards that look at the final candidates in most police departments. You have polygraph tests, lie detector tests, to determine whether the person is being honorable and honest and above board with all that he submits to you in application and on your oral reviews and etc. But most states now require certified police officers. Best officers on the department ought to be the field training officers. You don't get a badge and a gun to abuse your authority. You get a badge and a gun to reflect the best example that you can reflect, to demonstrate that you are a notch above the norm when it comes to the average person behaving or reacting to a situation. The average woman is going to look at the average police officer or the average military trooper as a symbol of strength. This mess of going to a person's house and being more interested in their legs than you are their complaint, or stopping a person on the side of the road and not being able to look eye to eye with them because you're too busy down in their seat trying to figure out what's down there. Or when you're taking a person's complaint, you are more interested in trying to figure out if you can get a date with her later. And then instead of doing your duty and looking for criminals to deter burglars, you on your cell phone calling women 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 8 times a day trying to make that play in order to get over. See, all of that stuff is undesirable for a good police officer. The women of our community ought to feel safe and secure when they see a police car approaching or when they see an officer approaching. Not that I wonder what he's going to do to me. Not that I wonder if he's going to try to get in my pants again. That ought not be the interest of the women of our community when it comes to police officers.